Notice of this meeting was provided to the Westfield Leader, advertised on January 5th, 2017. Notification was sent to the Star Ledger and probably posted on the Municipal Public Bulletin Board and filed with the Municipal Clerk, informing the public. Time and place according to the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Law, Chapter 231, PL 1975. Good evening, everyone, and welcome.
Good evening, Mayor.
Basically, we'll change the regular order of business. We're going to have swearing out a new officer. Please step forward.
If you're a family member,
Yeah, go friendly, come on up.
you want to hold it? Okay, you got that? Yes, put his hand on the Bible.
I, Gregory L. Sanchez,
I, Gregory L. Sanchez,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same and to the government established
to the same as government established
in the United States,
in the United States,
in this state,
in this state,
on the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I do further solemnly swear
I do further solemnly swear
that I will impartially and justly perform
that I will partially and justly perform
all the duties of the office
all the duties of the office
police officer effective, you have to say the date, 11/6/2017,
police officer
according to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Okay, we'll move on. Mr. Renato, do you have anything for us this evening?
The only thing I have to mention, Mayor, is we have ordinance 17-25 on the agenda again. I understand there are still negotiations going on, so I would suggest that we again carry ordinance number 17-25 to the next meeting.
That's correct, thank you.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, Ms. Ariema?
Nothing from there.
Okay, the council has any unfinished business for this evening? Any new business? Yes?
I had a question about this flyer that was handed out over the weekend.
Okay.
Are we on the floor in their business still?
Yes.
From Councilwoman Tedisco and Blumenstock. I didn't know we had two single members on the council that are running the whole council. I mean, how is it that you put this out for everybody? I have no clue what's going on with this.
I mean, I think it's pretty simple that Councilwoman Blumenstock and I discussed it. We decided it was a good idea to inform the public about the two plans that are before the council for Russo 2, South Avenue 2 as it's also known, and so we worked on it together, spent our own money, and delivered it home to home, so.
You don't think that council should know about it before you put it out there? Because I have no clue about this at all. No?
I'm not going to apologize for
I'm not
informing
looking
the
for an
public
apology. I'm not
about
looking for an
this.
apology.
I
I
think
asked you a question.
we are on the planning board council committee.
Well, wasn't there a third person on that committee?
Yes, there is.
And how
But we
come-
decided among ourselves to do this.
Well, I think that's what you do all the time.
No, not necessarily, that's not our characterization. We're entitled to put out what we want. I don't want to sit here and apologize for going out and informing the public. We have the deadline that's approaching very quickly, as I mentioned at the last council meeting, and Mr. Arnaud spoke to the fact that the court has ordered us to adopt a redevelopment plan for South Avenue 2 by the end of this year, by the end of December.
I know all that.
And so we thought time is of the essence, let's get this information out to the public as soon as possible and hope they can attend the town hall on December 5th. And if they can't, they can, you know, certainly reach out to Councilwoman Blumenstock, myself, or anyone really, but it's our prerogative and I stand by it.
Well, there's 3 council people that aren't gonna be there.
Well, quite frankly, at the last town, just one last comment. The last town hall meeting back in October, not all members of the council were there. You weren't there, I don't think Councilman Sarno was there. Councilman Petrozelli was there for a little bit, but not the whole time. So it's not a requirement, it's not a special meeting of the mayor and council, it's an informal town hall meeting. And it was the night that was arranged based on the developer schedule as well as the members of the committee.
And why wasn't the 3rd member of the committee on this flyer? Maybe Mr. Sarno can answer that.
Never asked.
We never
Well,
asked.
with all fairness, I did ask Councilman Sarno if he wanted to author a letter to the paper about affordable housing and redevelopment with me, I think around the summertime, a few months ago, and he just told me no, so.
That was nothing to do with this, and you know that.
Oh, but still, I
That had
had
to
reached
do
out,
with the
with all due
pilot
respect,
itself, and we've all wrote separate ones
Keep it
ourselves.
calm.
That's ridiculous.
but I did reach out.
That
and
has
the
nothing to
answer
do
is
with
no.
this.
Okay, but then we're entitled to
actually
do
does.
what we'd like to do,
Nonsense.
and it's up to the public to judge it.
Intentionally, you're intentionally not including people.
No, we
No.
took it upon ourselves because we believe that this is an important issue that the public needs to know about, to be proactive instead of
We know how
reactive.
important it is for Garland. We do. You act like it's something new.
So anybody could have done this, we chose to.
Well, nobody else could have done it that didn't have the information.
Well,
Because you're negotiating with the developer and with the attorney, correct? Were you doing this on your committee?
The whole committee was at the meeting.
the
Yes.
whole committee was at the meeting.
She makes a good point, though. The only people that really knew could have done something like this. And without talking amongst the council and just going out and doing it yourself, I think it's a bit unfair.
It's been done before by other council people about various topics, so
Not as
I'm not
not as
sure
council
why this
people.
is an issue.
Even so, whether it's signed by the Republican Party or, in fairness, I think our approach was more transparent. Councilwoman Blumenstock and I put our names, we put our address, we put our phone numbers. I mean, I've seen things come out from the Republican Municipal Committee, I've seen things come out from the Garwood Republicans. I honestly don't know who's behind that. A lot of the public doesn't know who's
I
behind
think
it.
we're
We're
starting
very
to get very
transparent.
political. I think we should
Yeah, we
just
weren't
say-
talking about political
Okay.
parties.
We can agree to
But
disagree.
I think
Okay.
that
You're
your
being
question is
intentionally
being included.
exclusionary.
But let me tell you something else here, okay? There is no financial agreement at all, and you're sitting here going ahead and announcing this. There's nothing for the people to really decide amongst everything. We don't have all the information. And even further, when I left that meeting, I was still under the impression that we could negotiate even further, that these rental units weren't even finalized. So for you to go out there, you put the borough in an awful position by going out there and saying that there are 73 units. That number was to be discussed. That is absolutely silly. That's the way I left the meeting, and we were waiting to hear back from Russo.
That's
You could
not correct at
Having a
all.
financial
There was a
agreement has
question
nothing
by
to do
one
with it.
member, who was a planning board member that's in the audience, that can speak to this if she wants. And there was a discussion about the change of maybe 1, 2, or 3 bedrooms, but not the 73
They
number,
said
not the
to
number
bring the
73.
studios in together with the 1 bedrooms, make them larger and
There is no-
condense
How
the
does
size of
that
it.
affect-
Absolutely not.
Wait, can I just
Stephen.
ask for a clap, let's calm down, okay? So, aside from the fact that you're upset that you were excluded from being a part of that letter, isn't it a positive thing for the public to discuss their views on what's potentially gonna happen there? Isn't that a positive thing, that we're getting that out there? So let's focus on what's
You put,
important.
the borough was
It's
put in a
topic.
bad position.
Mark.
We were not even
Calm
done
down.
yet. We
Let's
were
calm
not even
down.
done. I can't believe this would even
I
happen.
think that's completely inaccurate.
It is not
And I
inaccurate.
think it's an
Excuse me.
exaggeration.
No, it's
It's a
not.
total
Excuse me.
We
exaggeration.
weren't even finished. We
I'm
don't have a financial agreement.
One more outburst would have cut this conversation down immediately. Be calm, intelligent people up here.
We were advertising that there is a town hall next week. There is not a very good way to get the word out about these things, so we chose to do this in the best way that we think is the best way possible. Now, these things that are on that paper are going to be discussed at the town hall. Russo is going to lay that same exact comparison out, along with more information, including pictures and details about the structures. There is nothing on there that is a secret, or is nothing on there that is putting the borough at risk. I think that's a dramatic, because
No,
I
it's
think
not.
you're trying to make a political
No, I'm not. You're the
point.
ones that made it political by going
I
after the
think you
people.
need to calm down on this
No.
issue and look at the fact, as Councilman Lazaro said, that now the public knows there's a town hall
You
meeting.
just compromised us with the developer.
With all due respect, Mark, I just have to say this, the town should have known about this when it was going on with the planning board 5 years ago. That's when the town should have been notified about everything going on.
We're already at a different point now.
Well, you know, we can say that about everything, Mark.
You can't be a time machine and go back in time and
How
try
about
to
people doing the
change
right
things.
thing for the people all the time?
I think we are doing the right thing right now.
You're
We're making
doing-
sure that Garwood is not at risk.
The only thing Garwood's at risk for is being sued. There's worse things that could happen to Garwood.
That's a pretty big risk.
Oh my goodness.
Councilman,
pretty
I
big
think-
risk.
Hundreds of
I think
thousands
that
of
I'm gonna ask
dollars.
the council
I
that
think
we
this-
had enough discussion
Yes,
at
we
this
have.
point. And I think we should move on. Comments and matters for discussion from members of council. Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Thank you, Mayor. So on a lighter note, the Green Team has decorated some of the planters along South and North Avenue as a part of our Adopt a Pot holiday event. And we had 8 businesses sponsor pots this year, and the hope is to do even more next year. But we had a great time decorating on Saturday, and we will be posting pictures and highlighting the businesses in the coming month on our new Facebook page, so check it out. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Council. Councilwoman Kukrow.
I had my say, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Lazaro.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to encourage the council to move forward on the introduction of bond ordinance 17-27, which is for the improvements to Hartman Park that I spoke about at workshop session last time. You know, we talked about, obviously, we got the $55,000 grant. I also submitted to everybody on the council there the original plans that were sent in April with those particular plans. Obviously, there are some of those things that may be changed, you know, as we go through the process of with our engineer and the person that we're Game Time Company, which is the company that is working to install the playground equipment. I also, Councilman Tedisco actually just took some pictures of the old playground equipment that's currently at Hartman Park, which you guys can take a look at. You can see on some of the pictures, when we had visited, there's a lot of equipment that is potentially unsafe, rusted, falling apart, not being used, benches that are falling apart. The swing on the second page is no longer there. So there is quite a lot of equipment there that's no longer in use. So, you know, for all intents and purposes, a lot of the playground equipment is currently not accessible for anyone. And so I would highly encourage the council to vote for this introduction of ordinance.
Is the clear playground equipment a legal liability right now?
I wouldn't know that answer, but you know.
Well, you just said things are potentially unsafe. I just want to ask, is there any kind of correspondence that was put out that there's a legal liability with the equipment currently there?
I'm not familiar with any specific legal liability, no.
Can I ask, did you get any other estimates beside the one that's provided?
I did not.
You didn't think that was a good idea to get more than one?
This is
Go ahead.
a company within the county co-op.
There's only one.
No, there's several. This is the one that has done a lot of the playgrounds in this area, and rather than going out for an RFP, which is a very costly process, we're able to use a company in the county co-op to get us to
One
cut
of the
costs.
benefits of this particular company is they offer all of the particular components that are a part of this playground equipment in terms of removing the asphalts, putting in the different playground equipment. They, you know, if you went to each individual type of equipment, that would take a really long time to be able to put together, and it probably would cost more money. So when you get all of the equipment together, you save money in terms of the installation cost because you're going with the same company that provides all of that equipment.
Well, I'm just a firm believer in getting more than one estimate. I mean, and like I said, I'm having this pulled anyway, but it's consent agenda, but I don't hate
It's
to
in
do
both.
anything.
It's in the consent agenda, and the ordinance is there, and I agree with her. I mean, it's not just laying down asphalt, I mean, you're laying down a composite basketball court to the tune of about $35,000, according to what was
No, that was-
given to us in April.
That composite basketball court is not gonna be a part of the actual
No.
plan. That was
No.
one
No.
potential idea that the person gave to us, but that's not on the final
If
plan.
I'm not clear on what it is, and I'm getting an email from April, then I go, there's no way we can introduce it.
Well, that's something you can clarify by sending an email if you don't understand something, and you can clarify now. I'm telling you now that composite basketball court is not gonna be a part of the plan, so that really large cost that you saw on that composite basketball is not a part of it. We just wanted to get estimates for different things, so that then when we put it to the table and decided how much money to spend, that we could obviously come into a good conclusion, and we came to a conclusion that was
Ms.
too
Ariana, Ms.
expensive.
Ariana, did we just appropriating some monies at this point?
Right, you didn't pick a vendor or awarding a job, you had a vendor provide you estimates, but that's not necessarily, you're not, when you go to do the job, you can get more estimates, you're not awarding them. There's not a resolution of award to that vendor at this time, it's just the vendor you got estimates from.
We are
You
looking.
will have to, at some point, do that, and, do that, award it.
To follow up on Ms. Ariano's comment here, essentially, we needed to get estimates in order to be able to apply for the county grant, to even see how much money we would get back in our taxpayer dollars to see what we could put potentially towards Hartman Park, and also to help us compile the different factors that we would need to know in order to go out for a bond in the form of the bond ordinance that we're voting on for introduction tonight. One concern I have, though, is these quotes were given to the council back in April. If there was a concern about, say, just getting it from the one source or whatever it may be, I just really wish these things were voiced back in April. It seems like we're doing things time and time again at the 11th hour, and I think it would
I
be
had
beneficial.
concerns. With all due respect, I had concerns that.
But
We had concerns over a year ago about how we were going to proceed with this. It's really unfair to sit there and say that kind of thing.
But
And
I don't see.
transparency, we're talking about transparency in one segment, and then I'm not clear in the other. Then I'm told I have to ask. I mean, you're contradicting yourself.
No, I don't think it's a contradiction at all. I think it's all about openness and ask your questions when you have them, but the sooner the better, because then potentially instead of somebody voting no to something, they can have their issue cleared up earlier to be in a position to vote yes rather than a reason to vote no.
Well, the issue
That's just
was
the way I
that
see it.
spending the money. That was the issue for me.
Okay, so then it's really not about the multiple quotes, it's about spending
Well, I mean,
money.
I believe that you should do a full extensive evaluation before you do anything.
What's the point of doing that if you're gonna vote no if you don't want to spend money?
Well, that's just doing your job as the person that put the whole thing
But I'm
together.
saying that we have the opportunity to, if we want to go out for bids or whatever these days, we can obviously later on do that. Right now, as we said before, obviously, we're just doing this for the purpose of getting the actual grant from the county. So at this point, we're not definitively committed to Game Time Corporation, which is the company that provided those quotes. We're not committed to that. This is just a plan to present for as part of getting the grants.
It's authorizing more borrowing to
I
add
know
to
what
our $3.8 million
I know what
of
it's
debt already.
doing. I know what it's doing.
Forgive, with all due respect, Councilwoman Kukrow, I can't use you as a barometer, and I urge the council not to use you as a barometer of what to invest in long-term in this municipality, because you've made it quite clear that long-term investments are something that you just really don't approve of, and it sounds good to, because you want to save a buck, and that's admirable, and it sounds good until you realize a municipality needs to maintain itself. This
No, I don't think
playground
spending
needs to be
taxpayers' money without
maintained.
caring for that.
She supported the garbage truck, she supports more
Well, the
roads,
garbage
and things
truck
like that.
always-
So, and you know what?
It didn't
Sit there and say
happen.
that, just unfair again. But, I mean, have fun. We made our point.
I just want to make one point on the finances as finance chair. One is about the current situation of Garwood's debt, which I've spoken about before. But the state sets aside how much you can borrow, and we are 1/7 of that. 1/7, not even close to 1/2, 1/7 of that. Granted, the money is what it is. But I want to point that out just to put this in perspective. Other towns are certainly far worse off than we are in the borrowing department. I think for the fact that this Hartman Park renovation will cost the taxpayers, I spoke with the auditor today to clarify, a little bit less than $7 a year to fix the fact that we have 2 broken benches down there, that we have a swing that's broken, that we have equipment that's literally a quarter of a century old, I think that's a good investment. It's just the balance of spending the money versus what you're getting for it. And I think this committee has worked very hard to make sure it is a good bang for your buck, that people are getting a good value, that they do see that their money is going to a good outcome. And also we have made decisions such as what kind of ground to put down, opting for wood chips or mulch rather than the rubber surface that's way more expensive. And Councilman Lazaro knows the numbers better than I do on that one, but like 10 times more expensive, right? So we opted for that. We've made decisions along this way to try to make sure we're optimizing every dollar spent on this project. And that's why we advocate getting the county grant for Kids Rec Trust and also for this special needs grant that they've recently put out, that let's get some of our tax dollars back here in Garwood working for the people of Garwood.
But you gotta tax the people again to get that money.
If we don't, that money is gone anyway. And we spent 2 years or 3 years sitting out from Kids Recreation Trust grants for that purpose because we didn't want to raise our money here in Garwood to match county money. And you know how I feel about county grants and the matching grants. We've spoken about that before. I'm all in favor of sitting out when it makes sense. But when you have a playground that's at least 25 years old, the equipment, you have broken benches, you have a swing that doesn't work, you have other equipment in disrepair, you know, let's apply for these grants and let's see what we can do.
And not to mention though that the equipment is not ADA compliant, so there is a whole segment of our population of children that are not able to use this equipment and use it properly, which is a big deal to me.
There's also a section of our population that doesn't use it at all. And you have to think about other people. I understand about the children, I understand that we want everything we can possibly have for them. But there are other people in this town that are footing the bill for this stuff, like the Little League field, that are not utilizing it. And that's not fair either.
Councilman Lazar, do you have any final words on this?
You know, I would just say that, you know, I believe that this is a good investment, and, you know, I absolutely understand we are trying as a committee to do our best to be very careful about how much money we're spending on this, which is why we applied for that grant, which is why we're applying for this ADA, level the playing field grant that is going to reduce the cost that the borough is going to be spending on this. But I think that this is something that Garwood does value, and we should invest in something like this that is something that, you know, is inclusive, that basically also, you know, to me, the idea of making a playground that's more conducive to special needs children, to me, it's a big deal, because a lot of those children don't have access to these types of things, and I think that speaks very highly of who we are as Garwood and what we value. So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Councilman Petrozelli?
I have to say, Mark, that was very well spoken. And from a father of special needs kids, I look forward to the park being built. And we have a community that's very diverse in terms of seniors, people in the middle, you know, regular kids and kids that have special needs. So, you know, I'm all for getting this park done and getting it done the right way. The only thing I really have tonight, Mayor, is the Recreation Committee wasn't able to have a meeting because we couldn't get enough members, but there are a few things that I do want to, you know, just remind everybody of. They have ice skating, which is December 2nd, and that's going to be over at Warnaco Park, and that's from 6 to 8 p.m. And they also have the children's ceramics over at Lincoln School Cafeteria. That's December 13th, and that's from 3 to 4. And actually, last night, November 27th, there was a parent meeting for the basketball rec, and that's really about it.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Sarno?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to point out that the state of New Jersey will allow you to commit financial suicide, because what it says is that you can borrow up to 2% of equalized value. So if you want to go into a financial pitfall, you're allowed. The statistic I want to point out to everyone is that our debt to taxation ratio is about 50%. It's about just under that, about 49%. So whatever our budget is here in the municipal side of it, okay, which is about $8 million, our debt's around $3.8 million, and we're going to add more to that. And that's a huge concern to me. That's where I think our focus should be right now, and that's where my focus will be in the upcoming year. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Council President Tedesco?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few items. One is I want to remind everyone that the Green Team Movie Night, showing Over the Hedge, is next Friday at 6:30 p.m. over at Lincoln School in the all-purpose room. And I want to thank the PTA for partnering with the Green Team to make this a reality. It's a free event, so please bring the family, and also we will be having a bake sale and some arts and crafts for the kids. Another one I have is, I have 4 total, so that's one off the list. The second one, I do want to publicly thank Councilwoman Blumenstock's husband, Andy, for building that menorah that's out front at Borough Hall, and it was up last year as well. It's nice to see, especially compared to what the old one looked like, and again, being an inclusive community is important, so I want to thank him for taking the time and putting his own time and money into that effort. Thirdly, I'd like to bring up that I passed out a resolution that's coming from the League of Municipalities. They supported in September, so a couple months ago, a resolution urging Congress, as federal income tax reform advances, to protect the deductibility of state and local taxes. So if the council could just quickly read that. I think this has been in the news quite a bit with how the federal tax reform can impact us here in New Jersey and here in Garwood. And so a lot of people count on those deductions, and now they could potentially be stripped away. And I just heard on the news today that looks like it's moving out of the Senate committee. So normally I would suggest us to maybe wait until the next meeting, really digest it, but it has been in the news quite a bit. It's about to come out of the Senate committee, and so, Ms. Ariema, we could potentially vote on this later on, right?
Okay.
As a resolution deleted
Okay.
from the consent agenda, so.
I want to point out that I absolutely support it, what you're doing, and I support what Congressman Lance is doing. This will have an adverse effect to the taxpayers here in Garwood. I did an analysis based on the 2015 IRS data that was poured here, and it's absolutely going to hurt us at least a few $1,000s. At least at a minimum, we should find a higher level than $10,000. I see that a lot of Garwoodians, the average for every tax bill that's been paid is about $16,000. So we're going to lose out a little bit on this, and I absolutely support this agenda going forward.
Thank you. Anything else?
Was that any tax bill, commercial and residential? Because the last I saw in residential was around the 10,000 mark on the average home
Residential
here.
side, the commercial side has been decided, the Senate's deciding on that.
Okay.
No mistake.
Okay, so thank you for that. And the last item I have was mentioned, I guess, already a bit earlier. It was alluded to because of the letter Councilwoman Blumenstock and I penned. But there is that town hall meeting with Russo Development about South Avenue 2 with the potential of 52 townhomes or 73 rental units and all that comes with that, bedroom makeup, open space, municipal parking spaces, all of that, and the looks will be gone into in depth at the Lincoln School meeting on at Lincoln School 7 p.m. on December 5th. So I'd like to encourage the public to go there, ask your questions directly of Russo Development, and see what they have for us. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to public comment. Anyone in the audience who wishes to address the mayor and council, please step to the microphone, state your full name and address. Please deliver your comments in 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Nearstead, 320 Hickory Avenue. This is not why I was planning coming up tonight, but I just can't let it go. Councilman Cooper, you made a comment earlier about there are a number of people who will not be using the playground and still being asked to pay for it. There are a number of us that don't use the school system. There are a number of us that don't use the seniors. I'm not sure if you were actually advocating that the school system be supported only by those parents who have children in it, but
That's all I just said.
you said that a number of, and Mayor, if I could just have the floor for a second,
Okay.
that a number of people, a number of residents of the borough will not be using this facility, but will be paying for it. I want you to extrapolate that a little further to recognize how many other things occur, how many other events occur in this municipality. Not everyone uses, but I, for one, and I don't know your position on this, will continue to support paying the schools to educate children, even if they're not my own. The reason I actually wanted to come up was, again, I want to go back to Councilman Kukrow and Councilman Sarni. You both know that we come from different sides of the fence in so many issues. But when I agree with you, I've let you know. And Councilman Sarni, the planning board, I'm with you 100%. At the last meeting, two of you had a vote that I really don't understand. And there are about 12 different questions I have, and so I might be going all over the place. But the bottom line question is, I don't understand how Councilman Kukrow, you could vote no on signing of the grant agreement. This isn't hiring a vendor. This isn't adopting a plan. This is simply accepting a grant, signing a grant agreement with the county for $25,000. Councilman Soren, I know you abstained. I'm just flabbergasted because do you recognize, you've been on council now almost 2 years, do you recognize, number one, that signing the grant agreement doesn't mean you have to have every T crossed and every I dotted and every plan perfect and every bench in the right location and every tree? It's simply accepting the money. We would have given poor Mr. Patterson a heart attack because if the other 4 members of council, do you recognize that if the other 4 members of council also voted no, we'd be sending $25,000 back to the county. And is that something you want on your record?
Are you educating me how to vote?
I think I am, because if you voted no, then I want you to recognize that your no vote was not to accept $25,000 for the children of this borough for Hartman Park at no cost.
That's not what I was voting.
Well, that is the vote that you voted no and signed the grant agreement. And the second thing is this vote tonight, okay, the ordinance, again, you're talking about vendors. I'm wondering if you understand the process. You're not hiring anyone. You can go out and get 12 more quotes. In order to put out a bond, you get an estimate. You get 1 estimate, you get 2, you get 3 estimates, as long as you cover yourself in the bond ordinance. You can put this out later and hire whoever you want. It doesn't even have to be the person who gave you the estimate. So I'm just wondering if you really understand this process. And I'm really curious about why you voted not to accept $25,000 from the county. It's not a matching grant for the children of this borough. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Did you want me to answer you?
I'd love to hear an answer. Sure, on the record.
That's the way I chose to vote. I'm sorry you
So
don't like
tell
it,
the
but that's
children,
my business.
we don't want to.
Go back and forth, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else like to step to the microphone?
Give me a moment. Good evening, Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Bruce Patterson, 25 Willow Avenue. I'm not sure.
Face the days, please.
Oh, yeah, through you. I think she actually voted yes for it. I'm not positive.
Do you have any new concerns?
Oh, yeah, okay. That flyer that obviously is causing a lot of furor. I mean, you know, the people that know me, I mean, obviously, that's kind of my modus operandi also. But I'm not on the council. Nobody deferred to maybe an opinion from the lawyer, borough attorney, Mr. Renaud. So, I mean, maybe something like that could be asked. And moving forward, I guess maybe a policy should be put in place as to whether just singular council people can give a voice by flyer to the public. I found no problem with the flyer. It was informative. Like I said, I like to go out and pass flyers around with information. But if indeed, as Mr. Sarno said, that there actually is in further negotiation, then possibly it was a little over the line that they were committing some choices that really aren't the true choices. Could have been worded better, maybe. That's what I feel. But I don't know, it's information. I'll talk about this flyer at the next public speaking portion, only because I actually do have some issues with it, and I will not be in attendance, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what side you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. I appreciate that.
But anyway, in addition, this Hartman Park, let me just say that, yes, there are on occasion, we do have to bite the bullet and spend money for, as Ms. Blumenstock said, you know, for our future. The question is, was it vetted out properly? You know, I understand there's an estimate, but as a member of the public coming to all the meetings, all I recall is the only thing talked about one time by Mr. Lazaro was that, or maybe Mr. Pedrogalli, was something about bathrooms. Okay, so I don't even know if the bathrooms are still in the project, but recently I heard a number of 55 grant plus 55 taxpayer, which is 110, and now I'm looking at documents that are $160,000. So somehow, something is not being conveyed properly to the public as to what is actually going there, because the public surely doesn't know, but they do see some number that is starting to balloon higher, and as a taxpayer, it causes me some concern. So hopefully somebody could explain why we're looking at $160,000 and exactly what are we getting for this $160,000. And if it's not exact, then maybe an overview of what is going to be there. And I can't argue about the ADA requirements. I mean, this is the feel-good world that we really do have to pay attention to special interests. And ADA, of course, is a big one. And that goes all the way back to, I think, the early 70s with federal legislation on the ADA, which is very costly, I mean, as we all know. But anyway, these are my two issues, and I'll talk about the flyer there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I clarify some of the questions?
Absolutely.
So, you know, there was never any proposal for bathrooms at Hartman Park whatsoever. If that was proposed, that may have been, there may have been rumors spread by someone else other than myself, but I never said bathrooms as part of the proposal, so, and I can firmly state, there will be no bathrooms at Hartman Park, okay? As far as the actual overall cost, we proposed about $110,000, but the vendor also gives us a recommendation that we go somewhere around 30% over that cost, and that is just to protect the borough in case that if there is any kind of issues in the actual implementation of the park. You know, for example, if they dig up something and there happens to be something there that goes awry, that we have the money to be able to afford to pay to fix those issues. And then obviously there are lending costs as well that go along with actually getting that bond out. So just to clarify, we did get a $55,000 matching grant. We are currently applying for a, it's called a Level the Playing Field grant. That's for ADA, a specific ADA, and we don't know how much we're getting for that because that application is due December 19th. And once we know, that's when we can apply that and figure out more specifically what's going to be at the playground. Generally speaking, the idea is the committee has tossed around, for the most part, is that there's a 2 to 5 age playground area, a 6 to about 12 age playground area, and a new swing set, benches, you know, that kind of thing, and then part of the basketball court would be used, part of that space would be used for the playground area, and then half of that one basketball court would be used for like a 4-square kind of hopscotch kind of area for that space, since we're taking a little bit of that space away from the basketball court. So I don't know about that.
Is the basketball court still there?
One basketball court would still remain, yes.
My suggestion to you is,
And this is not, again, this is not 100%. This is just the general idea. We're certainly welcome for input on the actual final plan, but you know, as we said before, we have a timeline for applying for these grants. We have a timeline for being able to implement them. So totally open to ideas, you know, from the council and from the public as we move through the process. But obviously, we need to agree to those grants in the first place, and we also need to agree to you know, the bond ordinance to know how much money we can get.
Thank you. Move on. Anyone else would like to step to the microphone?
Thank you. Rich McCormick, 101 4th Avenue, Garwood. Obviously, everybody knows the councilman-elect. A lot of discussions here tonight. Just to go back to Mr. Lazaro, it was probably latter in the summer that this whole thing was brought up about a bathroom. A young woman who happened to come here with her child or two asked about some handicapped bathrooms. So, Mr. Lazaro, that's how this whole discussion with Hartman Park came up, so you should repeal on those words. Second is kind of taking back how Councilwoman Kukuro had a hard time with a flyer put out and how the mayor was quick to gavel people when they got in a conversation. But-
I'm supposed to maintain this at all times.
But when the other side had something to say, you were pretty late on that gavel. So I had to get that out there. So I guess I got a lot to learn here, and I want to make that clear that I see what's going on here. So thank you for your time and listening to me.
Thank you.
Debbie McCarthy, Myrtle Avenue, Garwood. I'm here as a grandmother who, on more than one occasion, had to leave Hartman Park because of its deplorable, disgusting condition. When my grandson can't play on the equipment because it's covered in gook, and his fingers are getting pinched on the chains in between the equipment, it's time to leave. And I can't believe that, maybe this is too personal, but a woman who does what you do for a living wouldn't want that neighborhood uplifted by a great park for the school people, to the kids to use. I live on the other side of town, and I come across town, not that it's that far, but because it's a nice park, it's small, the Little League doesn't have anything for little kids, which I understand, so I go there. But I have to leave. And the best part is, when my grandson is kicking something on the ground and he says, "Grandma, what is that?" and I look at it and it's a used condom, I'm appalled. I mean, he's a little too young for a talk on what that is. But the equipment, the playground, and not for nothing, but I knew Mr. Hartman, and if he saw that park right now, he'd be rolling over in his grave. Sorry.
Well, May I mean, the point of the matter for me is you can't spend unlimited amounts of money on everything all at the same time.
I understand that. Believe me, I understand it. My kids don't live here, my grandchildren don't live here. They will never avail themselves unless they're visiting of the services.
My son still plays basketball at Hartman Park.
But you know what?
You know?
These people that might be grousing about having to pay for that, at some point in time, somebody paid for their kids to go to school, for them to play at Hartman Park when it was new, for them to use the Little League field when it was new. And now, you know, you got to step up and be part of the 21st century. I don't mind, and I'm sure there's people that do mind, but you know what? I don't want Garwood to be a part of Cranford or Westfield. And I wasn't born here. But my husband his family's been here for 64 years. And it's time. You just have to do it.
Well, then we'll have to cut back money somewhere else. Where should we cut back?
I don't know. I don't know. And if the $7 a year per person, per family, or whatever it is a true amount, I don't know. I don't want to sound flippant, but I don't know what the problem is.
It's not just $7 though, it's $2,000 in the last 7 years for taxes. This keeps going up and up and up, and some people have no relief.
You're absolutely right, but if we want to live in this town and be self-sustaining, we need to have people come back into town so that if they want to live here, they have to pay. And I know you're making a face, but if young people are coming here, from other states because they like the small town, they're going to realize that it's going to cost them to maintain the small town. I want to be a part of our surrounding community. I love Garwood the way it is.
Well, so do I. And that's going to change very drastically.
Well, you're right, it is. You're absolutely right.
And that's not the
unfortunately,
Garwood my
that's the
parents
cost
went to either.
of being what we are.
No, it's not.
Maybe that's a wrong terminology, I'm not sure. But it's
But I
just...
respect your opinion. Thank you very much.
The suggestion has something to do with one way or the other. Can I have the DPW director take a look and survey the park to see if there's any potentially unsafe equipment? We talked about it on the dais. Because we talked about it on the dais, I think we have to address it. Agree, Mayor?
I will also agree one further. We have a gentleman at the county who's a certified playground equipment inspector. And I can't promise, but I'll try my best to get him there before the next meeting.
Please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to come? Yes, sir.
Joe Burkhardt, 500 North Avenue. I've been a renter in Garwood for 2 years. My fiance and I look forward to buying a house here eventually once we get married. It's a great little community and we really like it. I ride my bike past the park every day, in the summer at least, and I've seen teenagers, little kids, everything, playing on the swings and standing on the bench without a seat. And is there any town protocol for God forbid someone gets hurt and we get sued? as a person who looks to move to the company, or move to the town, that's a real concern, because unsupervised children in a park, what happens if you get a $250,000 lawsuit? That's really, and this is my first meeting, so forgive me if I'm sounding a little unsophisticated, but if anyone can answer that, I'd appreciate it.
That's a good question.
Well, basically, we do have insurance, liability insurance, if something like that's happened, I assume. Mr. Ariema?
Yeah.
Our general insurance covers the park?
The borough has insurance, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think it would also be important, though, of course, is that if we did have to pay out an insurance claim, the cost of insurance would certainly go up significantly. So I think that bears to guess.
Okay, thank you.
It's freezing in here.
I don't think you're correct, I'm sorry. Anyone else like to step to the microphone at this time? Seeing none, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting.
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll move on, council. All rise for a moment of silence and salute to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice of this meeting was provided to the Westfield Leader, advertised on January 5th, 2017. Notification was sent to the Star Ledger and formally posted on the municipal bulletin board, following the office of the municipal clerk, and informing the public in time and place according to the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Law, Chapter 231, PL 1975. Roll call, Ms. Ariella.
Mayor Lombardo?
Here?
Councilman Blumenstock? Here. Councilman Kukrow?
Here.
Councilman Lazaro?
Here.
Councilman Petrozelli?
Here.
Councilman Sarno?
Here.
And Council President Tedisco.
Here.
May I have a motion to suspend the regular order of business to hold public hearing on the Union County Community Development Grant proposal for the year 44 as advertised on November 2nd, 2017?
I'll make
So
that
moved.
motion.
Ms. Ariema, have you received any applications or correspondence on this?
None, Mayor, this hours.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone wish to speak concerning the CDBG application?
Just a simple question from the seat. I thought there was always 3 line items. I see only 2.
In the last 3 or 4 years, there were 2 times, because I applied for redevelopment money, but was denied both times, so I didn't try again.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Do I have a motion to submit the applications?
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to resume the regular order of business?
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Ariema, minutes.
Regular workshop and executive minutes of Mayor and Council held on November 14, 2017.
So moved, Mayor.
Second?
Accept the minutes as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Ariema, communications.
New Jersey State League of Municipalities, Mayor's Advisory.
Receive and file.
Moore Valley Sewage Authority minutes.
Receive and file. Move on to ordinances. Ms. Ariema, please read ordinance 17-25 by title only, please.
Yes, Mayor. Ordinance of the Borough Council of the Borough of Garwood, County of Union, New Jersey, adopting the South Avenue 2 redevelopment plan pursuant to a local redevelopment and housing law, NJSA 48-1281. That's it.
So Mayor, the appropriate motion, if you're going to follow the procedure that I outlined, would be for someone to move to table this to the meeting of December 12th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Do we need a roll call, Mr. Bernard?
Yes.
Roll call, Ms. Ariema.
Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Aye.
Councilman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
And Council President Tedisco.
Aye.
Thank you.
The resolution, ordinance is tabled.
Okay. Ms. Ariema, please read ordinance 17-26 by title only.
This ordinance is an ordinance for introduction, and ordinance to amend Article 8A, offices and positions in Chapter 5 Administration of the Code of the Borough of Garwood to create the position of Property Maintenance Officer and to prescribe the duties thereof.
A motion to introduce ordinance 17-26.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Ms. Ariema, roll call.
Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Aye.
Councilman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petroselli.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
And Council President Tedesco.
Aye.
Ordinance 1726 is introduced.
Ms. Ariema, bond ordinance 17-27 by title only, please.
Yes, Mayor. Bond ordinance to authorize the undertaking of various improvements to Hartman Park Playground in, by, and for the Borough of Garwood and the County of Union, New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $160,000 to pay the cost thereof, to make a down payment, to appropriate a county grant, and to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
Do I have a motion to introduce 17-27?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Ariema.
Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Aye.
Councilman Kukrow.
No.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petroselli.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
No.
Council President Tedesco.
Aye.
Okay, moving on.
The bond ordinance 1727 is introduced.
Thank you. Moving on, council standing committee reports and other reports. Police, Councilman Petroselli.
Thank you, Mayor. Congratulations to members of the Garwood PBA Local 117. This was the first year the department participated in No Shade November, and it was a huge success. The goal was to raise $2,500 for cancer research, which was surpassed greatly. To date, they have raised over $3,200 for the cure. Well done. Garwood Police Department will be out in force supporting the Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over 2017 year-end holiday crackdown. The purpose of the campaign is to undertake visible, targeted, impaired driving enforcement during the end of the year holiday period, which traditionally is the time when impaired driving increases. The statewide campaign will run from December 8th until January 1st. The police department will increase patrols during peak hours to discourage impaired driving. Please enjoy the holidays, but don't drink and drive. Thirdly, if you are interested in donating a toy for Toys for Tots program, there is now a drop-off located in the lobby of the police department. That's all from our report, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Public Health, Councilwoman Kukrow.
Thank you, Mayor. I really didn't write a report because not much went on. Megan was away, and one of the other members got there really late, just as we were getting ready to cancel a meeting. We did speak about the rodent issue, which I'll bring up in the laws and license, and we also spoke about the dog that bit another dog and killed it. So I just want everybody to be really aware that there are things going on like that around town, so just be very vigilant. This dog got away from its owner accidentally, and another dog just killed it. So just put it on your radar and please be aware that there are things going on that you really have to be careful of.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
I mean, that's something, I know the police chief worked
Yes.
very closely with that and handled the situation as best as he possibly could. And I really want to commend what he did and working together with that. And I know it sounds, it sounded like a vicious scene, I know it was, but I want to say that it was addressed in town, and it is something that's being closely monitored. Thank you.
No, you're right, he did do a great job, but we haven't had a Board of Health meeting in like 6 months, so we were talking about it, yeah.
Okay, moving on, streets, roads, and ecology, Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Thank you, Mayor. In addition to regular garbage pickup, the DPW performed pothole repairs in the following locations. Intersections of Pine and East and Rankin and Locust, the dead end of 4th Avenue, 200 block of Hemlock, 300 block of Spruce Avenue, 443 Spruce Avenue, 500 block of Spruce Avenue, 300 block of 3rd Avenue. 4 tons of hot mix asphalt was used for the repairs. They inspected and performed repairs and preventative maintenance on all snow removal and de-icing equipment. And they also installed a salt spreader on one of the department's 7-yard dump truck. The DPW installed the holiday decorations on Borough Hall and the lights on the Christmas tree at the municipal complex, as well as on the borough's utility poles, all utilizing Fanwood's bucket truck. Also, as you'll see in the consent agenda portion of the agenda, the DPW superintendent has put forth a recommendation to hire Frank Peasy for the position of laborer to fill the spot left open when our previous foreman, Jeff Atkinson, retired. And good news, the new garbage truck is in Garwood. It needs to be registered with the DEP, which Superintendent Dixon is currently working on, and then it can be put out on the road for garbage collection. That's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you,
I have a
Councilwoman.
question. Is there any reason why the garbage is getting picked up later? Are they doing something earlier in the morning? I've noticed the last couple of weeks.
They have been down a few men for various reasons,
Okay.
so I'm assuming that's why,
Okay.
as well as putting together all
Because usually
the
they're there
holiday
like
decorations.
before 7 and they've been coming to 11.
They
so
have
I'm
been
just
very
being honest.
short-handed lately.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on, Fire, Councilman Sarno.
No report.
Thank you. Finance, Council President Tedesco.
No report, but our next meeting is on December 11th.
Thank you. Buildings and Grounds, Councilman Lazaro.
Thank you, Mayor. The Buildings and Grounds Committee met with Game Time, the company we have been working with to help plan and implement a new playground area for Hartman Park. They were able to provide us with specific recommendations for special needs equipment that could make Hartman Park more inclusive for children with special needs. One particular piece of equipment we were most excited about was the sensory slide, which caters to many kinds of children with special needs. At least 1 in 20 children are affected by sensory processing disorder, according to the American Journal of Occupational Therapy. Further research suggests that 1 in every 6 children experience sensory symptoms that may be significant enough to affect aspects of everyday life functioning. Autism spectrum disorders are a group of developmental disabilities that can result in major social, communication, and behavioral challenges. And researchers studying toddlers and preschoolers with autism found that social and communication abilities closely track a child's motor skills. The researchers urged the addition of adaptive physical education in autism intervention programs. The playground equipment we hope to get with a non-matching level the playing field grant from the county will provide play activities to encourage multi-sensory play through tactile system input, motor planning, and cooperative play for children through stimulating activities and experiences. We believe creating an inclusive place for children to play represents the values of Garwood while using county resources to help foot the bill for a large percentage of the project. Also, the fact that this playground will be directly across from the school will provide additional opportunities for Garwood educators to find ways to maximize the use of the equipment during recess and other relevant structured activities. The grant application is due on December 19th, so we hope to hear about it by our first January council meeting. That's all from our report.
Thank you, Councilman. Laws and License, Councilman Kukrow.
Thank you, Mayor. We spoke to Megan at the Board of Health in Westfield concerning our rodent issue. We couldn't seem to get anywhere on council, so basically, a few of us did speak to her, and it turns out that the ordinance for the rodents was always in the Board of Health's hands. And somehow it got omitted in 2008 by error or whatever. So when we spoke, we said, why the heck are we killing ourselves trying to get this passed on council? We're just going to kick it back to the Board of Health. They will take care of it. There hasn't been any issue except for one person that hasn't rectified the rodent issue. We weren't really aware of that either. Like I said, she called us, and I was like not aware that there was an issue at all. Just that we were actually trying to see if we could get an exterminator company to cut the rates to come here in the event everybody had a rodent problem. So it turns out that's not the issue. Board of Health will take care of it. It's off of our plate, and that's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Recreation, Councilman Petrozelli.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Garwood Senior Liaison, Councilwoman Blumenstock.
No report, Mayor, but we will be having our holiday lunch next week, next Thursday at the Westwood, so looking forward to that.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Library's Mayor Representative, Councilman Lazaro.
Thank you, Mayor. The first Pause to Read program was a success, so there will be another one on Saturday, December 9th at 10 a.m. St. Hubert's Therapy Dogs will be on hand, and children can read to them at scheduled intervals. On December 11th, Magic Man Lou, Garwood resident Louis Arija, will present a night of magic, mystery, and mentalism. This program is for adults and registration is required. Santa is also coming to the library on December 16th at 11 a.m. He'll be bringing his wife and gifts for the good girls and boys. Bring your camera for a photo opportunity with Santa, and also registration is required. Over 65 magazines are available on Garwood Library's new digital magazine app, including Rolling Stone, Forbes, Highlights, and Glamour. Find it on the website, the library website, on the top ribbon of the homepage under RB Digital Magazines. And just a reminder of the library's regular programs. The Knitting Club is every Monday and Thursday at 10:30. Book Club's Thursday, December 7th, and Monday, December 18th Design at STEM every Tuesday at 3 through January 9th. Adult Craft Tuesday, December 12th at 6 p.m. Story time every Wednesday at 10:30. Kids Craft Wednesday, December 13th at 3. Movie time every Friday at 10 a.m. And the Garwood Library is open Monday through Thursday from 9 to 8 p.m., Friday from 9 to 4:30, Saturdays from 9 to 1. The library will be closed Saturday, December 25th, 26th, and 30th for the Christmas and New Year holiday. That's all for my report.
Thank you, Councilman. School Board Liaison, Councilman Sarno.
Thank you, Mayor. Superintendent of Schools Teresa Quigley, alongside Lincoln School Principal Mary Emmons, presented the Park Year 3 results for grades 3 through 8 at the Board of Ed meeting Tuesday evening. Except for grades 5 and 8, every Lincoln school surpassed the Park average, and all other New Jersey school districts average in mathematics. The 7th grades outperformed the Park average, but tied with the state mathematics average. 50% of students in grades 3, 4, and 6 have scored as meeting expectations or exceeding expectations. No students in grades 5, 7, or 8 exceeded expectations in mathematics. However, as with many standardized tests, there are many factors that affect the outcome, and it should be noted that it is unlikely under the new administration that Park testing will continue. Welcome, report, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Celebration of public events and holidays, Council President Tedesco.
Thank you, Mayor. The annual holiday tree lighting this past Saturday, November 25th, was a huge success here at Borough Hall with the largest turnout in recent years. The line for Santa was long from before it officially kicked off at 5 p.m. and it lasted until about 7 p.m. It was nice to see around over 200 people stop by this nice community event to enjoy donuts, some hot chocolate, and most importantly, to get into the holiday spirit. The sale of luminaries has been extended 1 week, so the deadline is now this Sunday, December 5th, and the order form is posted on the Borough of Garwood website homepage. It's also, there's some copies up here on this table if anyone would like to grab it. Also, please continue to check out the Garwood Celebrations Facebook or the Borough website for updates and more information. That's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. Union County Air Traffic Noise Advisory Board Representative, Councilman Blumenstock.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a report. We actually met last night to discuss the latest Port Authority meeting about the Part 150 study on how to mitigate noise from departures and arrivals at Newark Airport. The headline of their meeting was that they will not actually be submitting their study to the FAA this year as planned. It turns out the number of flights that they predicted was much, well, they predicted a number that is much lower than it actually is. Instead, they pushed the study back 3 years. They will continue it, but then will apply it to the new numbers and hopefully submit their baseline in 2019 and then again the comparison in 2024. However, they have found so far that moving the path further east does help decrease noise, as does using runway 29 during the evening hours. In other interesting news, there is a bill in the House to study the health effects of flyovers, though it's unsure if it will make it off the floor. That's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Administrative Review Committee, Councilwoman Kukrow.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Historical Committee, Council President Tedesco.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Historical Committee met last night and took some time to reflect on the year as well as to look ahead to next year. We're happy to report that all of the ornaments that were made by the committee are now sold out. Thank you to all those that purchased this first set by the committee in this ornament series. We look forward to making a second series next year with different historical photos. Additionally, we plan to get a booth once again at Garwood Rock Street Fair in June and to go around and hide those rocks related to Garwood's history for children and adults to find, and then bring them back to the booth at the street fair, like they did this past summer. Also, it was discussed to have a new fundraiser next year, possibly card magnets in the shape of a heart, or with the shape of a heart to say Garwood, Small Town, Big Heart, for sale as a fundraiser. So we can look forward to that next year. And the Historical Committee thanks everyone for their support of the activities and the fundraisers this year, and we look forward to continuing to play an active role in the community again next year. That's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you.
Excuse me. I'd like to thank Bruce Patterson for making me those ornaments in glass. Thank you very much.
You paid for it, though.
That's okay.
Okay, moving on. Parking Committee, Councilman Sarno. Thank you. Ms. Ariemo, officers' reports.
The Chief of Police James H. Wright monthly report for October 2017. LaShawn Durant, Court Administrator monthly report for October 2017.
Do I have a motion to accept the officers' reports?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on. Public comments. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the mayor and council? Please step to the microphone, state your full name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Lombardo, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Bruce Patterson, 325 Willow Avenue. Just some questions. Rec complex repairs, haven't heard about the status of that. The Hartman Park, I forgot whoever gave the report. The school does use Hartman Park. I was just wondering if, and it's coming out as, you know, one pocket for the other taxpayers, but if there's like an interlocal agreement, maybe the school should be splitting the cost, or does that affect the grant that you're going for?
I don't know.
It's definitely, you know, I hadn't considered that idea, but.
But as you say, if I may, it all comes from the same pot.
Yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. And I guess I have to thank the county for at least matching the grant for 55 grand, as much as they yell at it. Yeah, through you, Mayor, I was asking maybe Borough Attorney Renaud to, I guess, give an opinion on the flyer. I really didn't hear an answer on that. Just wondering if he at least could render an opinion on it.
Mr. Renaud, do you have any thoughts on that? If not, we can.
Well, I guess the only thoughts I have are that if anybody could send out a flyer at their own expense and have a meeting, I suppose, at their own expense. I don't know that it's illegal, unlawful. Certainly have free speech rights.
Right.
Thank you.
Who's like the ear for a lawyer?
Okay.
Sometimes.
Yeah, unless it's against you, that's
For the days, Mr. Patterson, please.
Yeah, two months ago, and I probably should have brought this up back then, but walking up East Street, where Beach Street hits East Street, those, and I forgot the term, but they're the red pedestrian mats on the corners, those are being pulled up off of their rivets. I don't know if anybody else had brought it up in the past 2 months.
I thought we were looking at that one. I'll double check if you don't mind.
Yeah, it was like 2 months ago, so I might have been prepared.
I know that they were looking to review that whole process and try to do something with it, but I'll check.
Yeah, they were being torn up.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I won't be at the meeting on December 5th, and I was looking at these costs of 52 townhomes versus 73 rental units, and a couple of items jump out at it. It says 23 additional parking spots on the 73 rental units. I thought somewhere somebody mentioned 28 additional spots, so now we're down to 23. And my concern is, and I've talked about the parking, that, you know, we're looking at least 40 to 50 that we need, and hopefully whatever comes about, there should be some kind of swing spots, I hope, that will take care of the 40 to 50 demand that we may require. I mean, that is a major concern. I've stated it before, that we definitely need a lot of spots, and you need to send the chief or whatever, the police department did a study and also verify that 40, 45 or something like that. So, I mean, I'm concerned about that because it looks like we're short on these spots unless something else is being handled on that. And just looking at these, there's a large bias. This is what irked me. I mean, you read the comps between the townhouses and the rental units, and there's a bias here, and it's like sewer, garbage, snow plowing expenses paid, you know, the townhouses is paid by the Garwood taxpayers, the rental units is paid by the developer. That sounds great, so rental units. Then you have municipal parking, and the townhouses always say 18 additional, and the rental units say 23 additional, so that sounds great too. Rental units. And then open space is approximately 17%, and for rental units, approximately 25%. I mean, it ran down making these 73 rental units a glowing choice, that where it far supersedes these townhomes, and that really shouldn't have been. There should be some at least negative, I'm critiquing this flyer, which I shouldn't do, right? Anyway, but there should have been some kind of negative comps that you know, everybody's looking at this and they're saying, oh yeah, rental units, and of course that's more
Mr. Patterson, you can final comment?
Yeah, okay, I mean, I'm critiquing it, but I mean, you know, if these numbers are true numbers, you know, I just hope that there is further negotiation on the parking spot, that the children impact, of course, is always a major concern. Joe Sarno, Calvin Sarno actually mentioned like many laundry lists that really needs to be addressed. So, I don't know, I wrote a letter, I don't know if you guys had received it, but it seems, I was trying to give you some insight about possibly these developers, what they're doing to get their foot in the door to build these overly high dense. Did you guys receive a letter? Oh, okay, it wasn't on the correspondence list, that's.
You had it in the paper too, didn't you?
And I wrote it to the paper.
It was sent to them after the agenda was created.
Oh, okay. Anyway, but that's an insight that everybody here, we have the planning board people, these developers, they get their foot in the door, and one good way is to overpay for everything to make people motivated to sell. And this is probably going on through all the towns. It's something that, you know, just looking at this process here in Garwood, starting to jump out that there's like loopholes. And on the state level, they should really address this COA obligation a lot better. Something that maybe you guys can put a resolution to.
We did.
Do another one. There should be actually a class action suit by all the towns, that maybe everybody chip in a couple $1,000. Something's wrong here with these, you know, just what we're facing with this major issue. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a couple answers about the parking spots if you'd like.
Okay.
You want that now? Okay, sure. So as the flyer had mentioned, right now next to the firehouse, there are 8 or 9, depending on how you view it, because there is a shed there and a trailer with some cans for a can collection that the fire department does. And so, you know, 8 or 9 municipal spots there. So if you add that onto the 18 that were additional in the 52 townhome plan, that's where you get the number of 27 parking spots there. Like I said, 26 to 28. It really depends on exactly how they're laid out, but that's what you're looking at. You get a bit more from the 73 rental. And just to quickly speak to the side-by-side, Councilwoman Blumenstock and I just looked at highlighting a few of the major points. Obviously, we tried to keep it to 1 page, and so we couldn't necessarily go on and on for 2, 3, 4 pages about it, but we wanted to give some major highlights, not to bias anyone. In fact, as I was passing out the flyer, a couple people had said to me, oh, it looks like the 52 townhomes are the way to go. So definitely the public seems mixed from what I can tell so far, and I think the town hall will be a great way to get input from the public about this.
Thank you.
I hope that clears it up a bit.
Councilman Osborne.
And Mr. Patterson, you asked in regards to the rec complex, so there's really not a ton to update, but other than the fact that we are aggressively communicating with our contractor that they need to get the supplies in order to move forward with this. Ms. Ariama has been really on top of this, making sure that the contractor is on top of getting these supplies. The challenges are very specific materials that they have been having a hard time acquiring in an efficient manner. So we've been emailing and reminding them that this needs to happen as soon as possible. And trust me, I'm very frustrated by how slow the process sometimes can be. It's frustrating to be in that, and so I know from a public perspective, it's equally frustrating too. So I'll just say that we are working really hard to make sure this happens as fast as possible. And we are on top of these contractors. So as soon as I can give you a more definitive time update, I certainly will, but I can't right now because we're trying to get that information as soon as we can.
Was it lead time on material? Is that what you usually?
Yeah, they're just some of the materials are difficult for them to acquire right now, so for shipping or whatever the case may be. So, but they have communicated with Ms. Ariama, and she forwarded that communication with me. So we are very much on top of it.
Mayor, I just actually have one other item about the municipal spots, because this number 40 to 50 that Mr. Patterson has brought up a number of times, I know came from my mouth, but that was because of the really informal conversations I had with our police chief and Ms. Ariama about what would be the ideal over there. So certainly 40 to 50 would be the ideal, but also we are dealing with a situation where we have private property, and there is only so much space there. It's a 1.74 acre piece of property we're talking about. So we have been pushing very, very hard, like we've spoken about at other meetings. And, you know, certainly while I would like to see, I mean, it almost seems like why not just have more and more and more parking? You have to also be realistic when you're negotiating terms like these. And I don't know if the police chief wants to speak on this a little bit. The situation where we're at, where we've garnered more municipal spots than we were initially looking at when we started negotiating Russo 2. It's not the 40 to 50 yet, but you know, it's getting closer than it was.
Yeah,
So
I believe the initial was 19, 18?
18 all in, including our 8 or 9 that we already own. So literally only 8 or 9 additional from the
There's only 9
developer.
additional, yeah. So we're getting more, but it's still going to be tough.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Anyone else like to come to the microphone?
Thanks, Rich McCormick, once again, 101 Fourth Avenue, Apartment Park. It's a hot topic right now. I ask, why is this a hot topic? So before you all judge me, I'm a father of 3 daughters and a grandfather of 5 children. So I'm curious to why Apartment Park is being discussed. Is it because it's really in disarray? Is it that we need the park to be kept up to children that are in different needs than regular children, if there's a way to say? What is the reason why we're doing this? Because it is costing the taxpayers money. Why is this a hot topic? So who am I talking to directly?
Well, I'll start it off. As far as I'm concerned, it hasn't been touched in 30 years, and I think it's just a general upgrade. It's well.
So we're going back, we started out with one number, we're up to, what was that, 160 I read, and talking about safety issues and so on and so forth, and geez, something never came up about lighting. Is there any lighting being brought about, a different dusk? And then we had a young man who was new to town, can't wait to get married and buy a home. We were all teenagers at one time. Yes, we all did mischievous things at one time, so I don't think we should arrest all teenagers. So I'm asking, why are we doing this all of a sudden when we have an athletic field that's not really in compliance with what we signed up for? Why are we rushing this program? That's what I'm asking.
Well, Mr. McCormick, what I would say, and I've said this, you know, throughout the process, I haven't been rushing this. This is something that I proposed in April.
Remember what I said to you before. It was midsummer, late summer, so yes, it's being rushed. Go ahead.
No, I proposed it in April because I spread it to the council and I shared that with the council, okay? And then, obviously, throughout meetings, I shared all of the details that were respected to, as I was coming up with some of the details of the plan. Now, why are we doing this? Well, if you look at every other municipality in Union County, okay, there is this grant opportunity, and you look at a town, and I think part of being a good person who's governing this town is looking for opportunities to save the town money and investing in things that are valuable. I think it's valuable to invest in a park that is inclusive, that brings people to this town, that gets people excited about being as part of this town. I think that's valuable. And on top of that, it's not like we are overspending here because we're talking about a park that is 30 years old, that hasn't been updated, that if you look at the pictures of the park, if you go to the park, it definitely is dilapidated. It definitely needs upgrading. And so, in my opinion, and also in talking to many people when we went campaigning last year, this is some of the things that families have expressed when we went on the north side of town. That people have expressed that that park was falling apart. That's kind of how we came up with the idea in the first place. I don't have any children. This is not something that I'm personally going to benefit from, but I think it's important for this town. I think it's a great investment for this town. So that's why I think it's important for us.
Okay. There's so many things that are in disarray in town, as you know. First aid squad, the fire department hasn't got anything to do.
Well, you know, we have to work one at a time. We don't throw up our hands and say, you know what?
The roads in Garwood are pretty much disarray. So I'm just wondering, I'm not here to make a debate with you or anybody particular on this board. Why is Hartman Park within the 6 months such a big topic? That's my point. And remember when I say this, where all the daggers might come in my back, remember, 3 children, 5 grandchildren. I know what it's like. So I would like that response.
There's no daggers. I respect that you have a different opinion than me, and you're welcome to that opinion, okay? We just have a difference of what we value. And in this case, I think this is valuable, and it's not a hot topic other than the fact that we're having a debate over it, right? In my opinion, we're talking about something here about investing dollars that is county grant money if you look at the amount of different grants that many other counties get to put towards projects, to investing in their infrastructure, if you look at all the towns, they're doing the same thing too. And they're investing in their parks because parks are part of, generally speaking, it's something that attracts people to want to live in the town. And for a 30-year-old park, I think this is not just like, oh, all of a sudden it's something we suddenly need. No, it's just an opportunity that we hurt people on the campaign trail. So I absolutely respect your opinion, and if that's your opinion, you're entitled to it.
I'm not on a campaign trail anymore. I'm just another resident voicing my opinion, so take that into consideration.
Well, you're councilman-elect, so your voice is going to matter more.
Mayor, just one item on the history to Hartman Park. It really isn't just the last 6 months, although this particular plan has been discussed at in more depth because we have a plan. And as Councilman Lazaro said, back in April, there were actual estimates, pictures, so people could get a visual idea of what could go there back in April. However, 3 years ago when I advocated sitting out on the matching grant with Union County, the Kids Rec Trust grant, I had said, just from going around and being aware as a council person and as a citizen, it doesn't take much to realize Hartman Park was coming down the pike. That there are some issues down there and it hasn't been upgraded in a while. And so I sort of wanted to put it on everyone's radar right then that what I was seeing was a need for a renovation over at Hartman Park at some point in the near future. While we were able to sit out a couple years on the Kids Rec Trust grant and Union County was able to distribute that taxpayer dollar, including Garwood taxpayer dollars to other towns, that's fine, but now it's our turn and we have, as Councilman Lazaro pointed out, many good reasons to support this, but in the end, it seems like this is turning into a wedge issue. I really wish it wasn't. It shouldn't be a wedge issue. We can agree to disagree on this and vote accordingly, and I'm perfectly fine with that. It's up to the public to ultimately judge the job we do up here.
So why is it, as homeowners, that we want a project on our house, we have 2 to 3 contractors come out and give us a bid, but here on council, we accept 1 bid for the project. Clarify that to me, how that's acceptable for my tax dollars.
Just to reiterate, I'll just clarify, because we said this before, that when we're applying for the grants, and we're also putting out for the bond, we're not accepting just one bid, just to get one contractor to provide some ideas for the actual park. We are not committed to that contractor. If we want to get bids, once we get the actual bond, that is an opportunity that we can do. But right now, we are not committed to just one contractor. So there's not just one bid that is necessarily going to be used for this overall project.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Do I have to get up? No.
Please.
Betty McCarthy from Myrtle Avenue, Garwood. This gentleman who's new in town is concerned about lawsuits. The first time I took my grandson to the Little League field, there was a sign that said, this equipment is for, I'm going to say 6 to 12-year-olds or whatever it was. Clearly he's 2 years old, 3 years old. He can't use it. God forbid something happens, it's on me. Hartman Park is the only place, short of Unani, which is scary during the day when you're by yourself and a little child, to take a little kid. So from that point of view, Mr. McCormick's grandchildren, they're older. They can utilize the Little League. They can enjoy it. I can't take my grandchildren there because they're not old enough. So Hartman Park is the only place for us to take, or people in town who have youngsters, to take their grandchildren to play in a park. So from that point of view, you're worried about lawsuits and everything else. Where else are we supposed to go to take a small child? We don't have that. other than Hartman Park.
Thank you.
May I come back up one more time? Semi.
One more time, you're not gonna go back and.
I've been there a few times with my
I've been
Where's
there
that?
since years ago.
undesirable people walking around.
Still near said 320.
I just don't go there anymore.
You may not believe.
Excuse me, Mr. Nearstead. Ladies?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
You may not believe this, but I really don't like public speaking. Many times I do it, I really don't. I have no intention of getting up here, but I just don't understand. This is a park. Parks increase property values tremendously. I don't think you can look at an urban park in the United States, okay, that has been improved in the past 20 years that hasn't improved the property values of those properties around it and also those properties throughout the municipality. As has been said previously, people move to municipality for a number of reasons, okay? Location, and the school system. Then they also look at parks, they look at services, they look at other things. I don't understand how we can sit here and recognize that we're getting $80,000 from the county. $55,000 in one grant, $25,000 in another. Okay, $80,000 plus potential.
25 is not a short term.
Understood, okay? These are grants for parks. With all due respect, they aren't grants for firehouses or for police stations or for anything else, okay? You can't submit an application for a grant for a firehouse or an ambulance facility in a parks grant. When an ambulance grant comes out, I'm sure we'll apply for that. So, you know, this is money that's out there from the county for parks. I don't understand the opposition to a park. It improves the value. It improves the reasoning that people give to move into a town. You don't want to spend taxpayer dollars. I'm sorry, let's get rid of this building, let's get rid of the firehouse, let's get rid of the police station, let's get rid of the library, let's get rid of the... I mean, we invest in our own properties. We spend our dollars to invest in our own houses to increase the property values. We want our neighbors to do the same. I want the borough in which I live to invest in its infrastructure. You know, comment was made about how many roads are to be fixed. Well, if you want to go out and fix every road in the municipality in one shot, well, you could do it. You'll raise your taxes tremendously, but can only do so many at a time. And, you know, I know thoughts have been given to promoting a capital improvement plan. I strongly recommend that that be done. I'm going to speak my own bias, and I apologize. Plainfield, we have a 6-year capital improvement plan, okay? It's been going on for 50 years. You project 6 years ahead, and you figure out what's being done. That's what a CIP is. I urge this council to do that. Hartman Park isn't 6 months old. I remember putting wood chips on Hartman Park 30 years ago. Sarah, I'm going to call her Sarah because at that time she was a Girl Scout. She might have been out there too. Okay? My daughter was, my wife was, and this is what we did to improve the borough. I don't understand opposition to improvements in the borough and getting half the dollars from the county for free.
Thank you, Mr. Nearstead. Mr. McCormick?
I guess I can test and sit here because I don't care to debate this with somebody else's opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Bruce Patterson, Mayor of 325 Willow Avenue. Just to wrap up conversation, because I mean, Hartman's Park really is a non-issue, but I think it really brings up what we're looking at in ideologies. And I was at the county meeting, freeholder meeting one time, and freeholder Sullivan once stated, I think Tina might have said something, but he goes, this is what Democrats do, we spend money. That was his comment. And I don't know, kind of like rankled me a little bit, but anyway, what I'm looking at here is, okay, so this is what the Democrats do, is they spend money. But the good part is, there's always an opposition that makes sure that it's being spent properly, that it's all vetted out, and maybe that's what the resistance is that the public is hearing, that there are people here making sure that every tax dollar spent is being spent wisely and is assuredly being spent properly. So I mean, you know, is this an issue? Somehow it blew up into an issue, but that's my observation. And just one more. I used to always like to say, the people that pay the most taxes use the least services. I say that everyone's wrong.
Yes.
And that's what it seems to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you, Mayor. Jim Matthews, 335 Hazel Avenue. Just a couple things. I just want to thank everybody for this spirited discussion that we're having tonight. I really, really, really appreciate it. Back when I started coming to these meetings 9 years ago, this didn't happen. And this is a quantum leap to have these types of discussions. And I often comment on how it looks from out there, and it just, no matter where you are on the issue, it's refreshing to hear real things that people care about being discussed. That's the first thing. Second thing is, Mayor, I just want to make sure that Mr. Northgrave is aware of the memo distributed by Council President Tedisco and Councilwoman Blumenstock, particularly in light of the concerns of prejudicing the negotiating power of the borough. I want to make sure that he's on board with that, and that's my inner attorney speaking on this. The other thing is, just want to let you know, it's irrelevant whether you have kids or not, or your kids are in school, or whatever. Anything that comes from the public fisc, no matter who you are, you have a right to speak on it. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're never going to use it. Okay, so you can go ahead and speak on it, because if you say to someone, hey, you don't have kids, or your kids are too old, and what you're basically saying to them is, you can pay for this, but you can't talk about it, and that is absolutely offensive. Whether you have kids or you don't have kids, whether you ever set foot in that park, whether you don't even know where that park is, okay? If it comes from the public fisc, you have the right to speak on it. You don't need to qualify for whether you're a grandfather, a father, a mother, whatever it is, whether you use the park yourself. It's the fact that it comes from public dollars. And the same thing goes for the school or anything else that you spend money on. So I just want to let people know that I don't think you need to clarify your status, because as a taxpayer, you have a right to speak on this. So I think that was it. Oh, and then just to clarify, Councilman Lazaro, so no date certain for having the athletic field house open.
I can't give you a certain date, no, but like I said, I can guarantee you that we are really pushing that contractor to get that done as fast as we possibly can. That's all I can tell you.
Okay, so I just want to confirm, I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy Blumenstock, 315 Spruce. I'll make it quick. I just say, if you're not willing to invest in the park, you have to be ready to condemn it at some point. That's it.
Thank you.
Wow.
You do.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move
Mayor,
on.
Mayor, just one quick comment to Mr. Patterson about Dem spending money. As a Democrat, we are, well, you quoted a freeholder with that one, but, I just want to say, we are people first, and before we are a Democrat or Republican, I would certainly hope. And, while we can spend money, and yes, here I am, I'm advocating to spend money on Hartman Park, we can also do that and advocate spending it wisely. And just because you vote no to spending money doesn't mean that that no vote translates into watching those dollars more carefully. And the final thing is, as a Democrat that sat on this dais, I've had times when I voted yes to saving money while Republicans vote no to saving money. So I really wish it didn't have to come down to this Republican-Democrat thing. Let's be people first, because that's who we are first.
Okay, with that, we'll move on. We'll move on to consent agenda. Is there any resolution that would like to take on the consent agenda?
17-213, 17-214.
Consensus? Any more? We have a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second?
As amended, not.
As amended?
As amended.
I stand corrected. Roll call, Ms. Ariano.
Sorry, who's seconded? I got Sarah. Sorry. Councilwoman Blumenstock. Aye. Councilman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
And Council President Tedisco.
Aye.
Ms. Ariano, do you have any deleted from the consent agenda?
I do, but we need to move on
Okay.
13 and 14
We'll
first.
move on 17-213. We have a motion,
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Second?
discussion. Roll call, Ms. Ariano. Okay.
Okay, Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Aye.
Councilman Kukrow.
No.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
No.
And Council President Tedesco.
Aye.
Moving on, do I have a motion for resolution 17-214?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Excuse me, what problem did you have with this?
214, not hiring the eighth guy. I'm just holding that position. Simple. Okay? We don't have any kind of study going on about garbage pickup. I've always asked for it, so for me, I'm going to be a no vote on this.
Anything else?
I am disappointed in once again, a lack of support for the DPW, which is what I see this as.
Roll call, Ms. Ariema.
May I ask one question? Sorry. Councilman Sarno, does that mean that you won't support an eighth man at the DPW until there's a study done as to the pros and cons, let's call it, of privatizing garbage?
It's not a binary issue.
Okay.
It all depends.
So, but you're linking the study for
I'll give you one
privatizing
reason.
garbage?
I'll give you one reason.
Okay, so it's just one reason, okay.
Move on. Roll call, Ms. Ariema.
Councilman Blumenstock.
Aye.
Councilman Kukrow.
No.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
No.
And Council President Tedesco.
Aye.
Okay, I do have two resolutions.
Okay.
This is a long one, sorry. Resolution urging Congress as federal income tax reform advances to protect the ability of the state and local taxes. Whereas, the federal tax code is incredibly complex and every one of its provisions was enacted for a reason. While some of those reasons may no longer serve the public's interest, others remain fair and effective tools that promote the general welfare. And whereas, the deduction for state and local taxes, SALT, has been a feature of the tax code for more than 100 years. In 1913, the first federal income tax form allowed taxpayers to deduct state and local taxes one of only 6 deductions allowed at the time. Even the federal Civil War tax in 1862 included a deduction for SALT. And whereas, this provision ensures against double taxation and reflects mandatory tax payments to support public services that benefit all citizens, such as K-12 schools, law enforcement and public safety, transportation and infrastructure, and vital community and public health services. And whereas, taxpayers in all 50 states and in both Democratic and Republican congressional districts benefit from SALT deduction. The SALT deduction is claimed by taxpayers of all income levels. The deduction is especially important for middle-income homeowners, as 50% of the deduction is claimed by taxpayers making $50,000 to $100,000 are for property taxes. And whereas, the SALT deduction does not unfairly benefit taxpayers in high-tax states. To the contrary, low-tax states are generally more dependent on the federal government, receiving more in federal funding than they pay in federal taxes. According to one study, Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana are among the most subsidized states, receiving about $3 in federal spending for every dollar contributed in taxes, while New Jersey, New York, and Illinois are among the states that receive less than $1 from the federal government for every dollar paid in federal taxes. And whereas eliminating the SALT deduction would raise taxes on middle-class homeowners, even if the standard deduction would double. A recent study commissioned by the National Association of Realtors found that homeowners with adjusted gross incomes, AGI, between $50,000 and $200,000 would see an average tax increase of $815 if SALT were eliminated and the standard deduction were doubled. And whereas SALT is strongly tied to home ownership, since the overlaying number of itemizers who claim the deduction, 44 million, deduct property taxes, 40.7 million, and mortgage interest, 35.4 million. Eliminating SALT will diminish the value of the mortgage interest deduction, resulting in a 10% decline in the value in the immediate term. Now, therefore be it resolved that the governing body of the Borough of Garwood urges New Jersey's U.S. Senators Robert Menendez and Cory Booker, and I have to insert the Congressman.
Congressman Lance.
Okay, thank you. Congressman Lance, to oppose with voice and vote any proposal to eliminate the fair and reasonable SALT deductibility provision from the federal tax code. And be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be forwarded to our above named representatives in Congress and all members of the House of Representatives representing New Jersey taxpayers and municipalities and the New Jersey State League of Municipalities.
We got a motion to adopt resolution 17-215.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Hearing none. Roll
Well,
call.
there was a condition on here, it was $10,000 exemption for taxes, up to 10.
That's only what the House has
Yeah.
passed. The Senate plan, as far as we know, does not include that as part of their proposal. So that is still potentially at risk.
Well, as a realtor, our board went crazy with signing the petitions for this. I mean, basically, I don't think it's gonna pass nationwide at the federal level, but I have no problem passing it right here.
Supported along with Congressman Lance, because he would like seniors too. He opposed it.
So, Councilwoman, your vote?
Oh, yes.
Yes, why?
We vote, well, are we?
We haven't voted.
We can do roll call yet.
Okay.
Well, vote first before anybody?
You're so special.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Roll call, Ms. Ariano.
Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Aye.
Councilman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
Council President Tedisco.
Aye.
I have one more.
Okay.
Resolution 17-216, whereas the governing body has determined that there exists a need for professional legal counsel services for the purpose of redevelopment and potential redevelopment in the borough of Garwood, and whereas the services are professional services defined in the local public contracts law of the state of New Jersey, and whereas the local public contracts law requires that a notice stating the nature, duration, and services and the amount of each contract awarded as professional services contract be printed once in the official newspaper of the municipality. Now therefore be it resolved by the council of the borough of Garwood and mayor and borough clerk be are hereby authorized and directed to execute an agreement with McMahon, Scotland, and Bauman, 75 Livingston Avenue, second floor, Roseland, for the provision of professional legal counsel concerning redevelopment and potential redevelopment in the borough of Garwood, and that said contractor shall receive fees in accordance with the proposal dated November 24, 2017, and that the borough clerk be and is hereby authorized and directed to maintain this resolution and the professional services contract on file and available for public inspection in the office of the borough clerk, and that the borough clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish a copy of this notice as required by law.
We have a motion to adopt resolution 17-216.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
We cannot move forward with this. We need to go a different direction. I appreciate the services given to us so far, but it's time to move to someone that is a further separation from the current developers that we're dealing with. We need to go out for bid again. It's okay. We have time. Let's go out there. Let's put another bid out there and let's change direction. I really urge everyone up here to go out to bid again and find different counsel. We cannot continue to go down this road. We need to have something here to really change the direction of what we're doing here.
I totally agree with that.
I'm kind of surprised because we were all on the same page, and I know Councilman Lazaro and Councilwoman Blumenstock weren't here yet, but it was a 6-0 vote for these professional services, and I want to say that in my dealings, been nothing but professional, responsive, and quite frankly, when it comes to these negotiations, there's no waving of a magic wand. If there was, if I had one, we'd have lower taxes in this town. You know, you can do so much, and he's taken the orders from the council. Therefore, I will be supporting this. Also, in terms of timeline, we've been told by the court that paperboard we have to get on within the next 120 days from October 30th. We need to have a redevelopment plan passed for that. There's a potential purchaser that is requesting meetings with us. We need an attorney there that specializes in redevelopment. And so again, I'll be voting yes on this.
And let me further clarify. Last month, I made it clear, I mean, it was in the paper. I absolutely opposed everything that's happened. Things have changed since the time we voted on this, and that's why I've changed my position. Also, we did not hit every deadline the first time we had our agreement in April. We actually missed a few of them. So you look at different boroughs around here, they've actually challenged certain aspects of different financial plans. Look at Scotch Plains, for example, where they agreed that the affordable housing component is something we have to do, and I have no problem supporting that, but not every project is something that we have to support. So we have to be open to that, and that's something I encourage council to do in the future as well.
I also felt very happy about the decision we made when we hired him, but I've become a little sour since then.
Well, as far as any relationship in the sense of business dealings between the current developer and this professional, I mean, that was clear a year ago. So that hasn't changed, just so everyone's clear about that.
What do you mean?
That was clear a year ago. Any little bit of research, you find that out.
What? for the public, what do you?
Yeah.
Well, what were you insinuating?
No.
Maybe I
you-
misunderstood.
You made the statement.
Maybe I
Well, clarify.
misunderstood something. No, go
Clarify.
ahead.
No.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean,
Clarify.
you're the one that, maybe I misinterpreted you.
This guy has represented Russo.
Okay. Mr. Northford, you are here, so.
No,
If you'd like
that's
to.
no
public comment
on the resolution. It's, just to be clear, I've never represented Russo. When I was hired here, when I was interviewed with you, Council President Disco and
Let me rephrase, you've worked with Russo before, you did tell us that.
across the table. I
Yeah.
did tell you that.
Yeah,
across the table.
that's what I mean.
Yeah, well, you just said I represented.
Oh, my fault, my apologies.
I have never represented.
No, my
That's a
mistake.
serious conflict, and that's why I rose to just clarify that right away. But yes, they were across the table from me in Union Township, and I told you that when you hired me.
Thank you,
It's
Mr.
time to move.
I just would like to say that, Mr. Northgrave, thank you so much for your services, and I found Mr. Northgrave to be extremely professional, has provided us with a lot of feedback, has worked very hard, and I think in the context of any negotiations, you're never going to be 100% happy. I think also in the context of the fact that we do have a lot of difficult timelines to meet, and just saying in an idea of the fact that then you have to then go out for an RFP to then find a new redevelopment attorney who then has to become more familiar with all of the details of these new plans, I think is, unwise. And given the fact that there has been a lot of difficult negotiations that have happened with Russo, and there are some things that, while we've not gotten everything that we wanted, we did get a lot of the things that we asked Mr. Northgrave to achieve in the negotiations. And, to be quite frank, I just don't know how different the outcome is going to be with a different redevelopment attorney. So, I feel like Mr. Northgrave has been very communicative. He's come to many of our town halls, has been here whenever we've asked him to be, and I think that has shown him to be a very effective employee, or at least, in terms of this contract for us. So I will be supporting this resolution.
Don't you feel like we owe the taxpayers more than that because we have a deadline? That's the most awful thing I could ever think for a taxpayer.
Well, the only thing is that I know from your perspective, I don't know if it necessarily, I know you're gonna vote down regardless of anything, so I don't know why it really even matters that much.
Because it does matter. I mean, I feel like I'm at least have a part of the conversation. I didn't like the way this whole thing was done going back 4 years already. And who do I hold accountable for that?
But I don't know if changing the redevelopment attorney is going to change that outcome. It's not gonna change how you feel about redevelopment attorney, so about the redevelopment process. I think that, listen, I believe that he's been professional. I believe he has worked very hard on our behalf, and that's why I'm voting for him.
Hey, listen, he's been professional, he's been there, I have nothing against it, I just think it's time to go for a different direction.
And you're entitled to that opinion.
I know.
Okay.
As far as that comment about basically insinuating we can kick the can down the road because we didn't meet all the requirements last go round, Mr. Arnott has been advising us very carefully with this, and I don't know, Mr. Arnott, if you want to say anything, but would you recommend us kicking the can any further?
I don't generally phrase my legal advice.
Good, first one of the night.
We have a deadline of the end of this year for the framework of the redevelopment plan, and then the adoption of the plan within 120 days of October 30th.
Sarah Ann, roll call, please.
Councilman Blumenstock.
Aye.
Councilman Kukrow.
No.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Aye.
Councilman Sorno.
No.
And Council President Disco.
Aye.
Resolution 17-216 passed.
Before we move on to payment of claims. Oh. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself a little bit. I'll wait until you call for new business.
Anyone on council have new business for this evening?
Well, I guess I have something, I don't know if it counts as new business, but, as a new member of the fire department, next door, a lot of the questions that some of the guys have are talking about a ladder truck. And I know last year, there was some discussion about putting that on a referendum. I was just curious with the fire committee, have you guys spoken to the fire chief or moved in any direction to try to see if we can put that on?
I called the fire chief earlier this year, and he told me that many of the guys don't want to move forward with it. So that's why I never did. That's why I never moved on from there. So I spoke to Lenny in the spring.
Really? What changed? Because before that, they wanted a new truck.
If something's changed, let me know, we'll get a meeting.
Well, I don't have to let you know, you're the fire commissioner, so I think you should reach out to him because I don't think that what you said has ever been your position. So I think that's something that really should be looked at to see if we can get that on, for June. Just to see if the town really thinks that we should spend the money to get it.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised because I know, being on the council about 7 years now, each year they've requested a ladder truck in the budget process as a capital item. And I know our finance committee had left it that we wanted to really, and Councilman Sarno was going to go back to them as fire commissioner and try to hone in on some numbers and details to see what they would really want, what would be most appropriate, and then take it from there. I believe in my budget reports I had made comments about the fact that we were in favor of a referendum, if so be it.
We were in favor of a referendum, but again, when I talked to Lenny, that's not the feeling that the guys wanted to do. They wanted to say, let's see what happens with this development, and then let's go on to the capital projects. That's how the conversation went. It wasn't that they were changing their mind on the ladder truck. It was the process that was going to get done. Now, again, if this is going to be something that changes, we'll meet. Not a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
I just have one item. Considering Mr. Northgrave's here, and when I found out that he'd be at tonight's meeting, I did send him a copy of the letter that Councilwoman Blumenstock and I penned and delivered this weekend. And you do things because you really are trying to solicit more feedback from the public and have a better line of communication between the council and the public. I had one great conversation with a resident about a month ago, and she said, look, I want to know more about what's going on in town, like what's going on with the council on these issues. And I said, look, I completely agree with you. I can tell you this, communication between the council and the public is a lot better now than it was 6 years ago, but I also hope that 6 years from now we look back and say, wow, we're much better off now than we were 6 years prior. So I really have a renewed commitment to that, and I thought nothing but positive thoughts when working with Councilwoman Blumenstock. So then to come to this council meeting and be accused of tainting negotiations and basically really hurting Garwood, which is the last thing we want to do, I have to ask Mr. Northgrave, as somebody who's been heavily involved in negotiations and knows where our last committee left, do you see what we did as hurting the negotiations? I mean, they were pretty much, there was one request by one member of that joint committee of the planning board and council that had said, hey, can you switch up a couple of the bedroom makeups, but pretty much, we got it to the 52 townhomes. We fought to try to get the 3 bedrooms reduced. Russo would not budge on that. It was 26 and 26 because of the construction. And then when we requested that he provide an alternative proposal, he came down from his original ask of closer to 85, 90 units for Russo 2, down to 73. So.
I wasn't here for whatever the comments were. What I did read what you sent me today, and that to me outlined what the proposals from Russo are. Can we? I don't think the townhouse proposal is going to get any better. I have pushed, as you know, some of the other members of the council know, I've pushed very hard to try and get the bedroom mix down on the 3 bedrooms because the forced sale was always something that the council seemed to be interested in, but it was really more of a physical, almost a geometry problem, the way the units break out. So that's not going to change. I don't think. We've probably had 5 conversations with regards to that. In terms of the rental piece, the 73 rental units, that's I don't think it won't get. They won't ask for any more. But I don't think that means we can still push to see if we can get something less. That's gonna be a product of negotiations, but that concept is fairly new, so I don't know that we know the parameters of where we can go there. Can we get more parking? Can we get less units? can we get more open space? I don't know that right now, but that's, you know, we had a fairly good dialogue sitting here.
And he did give resistance to the idea of swapping out unit for unit at the rental option.
He said he
What we
looked
said.
into it.
He said he would look
Remember,
into it, but he,
definitely, I was right
definitely,
there. And I'm not the other person from the planning board.
Yeah, but we are talking about it would be, he would say, maybe 1 or 2. So getting
No.
better is a good thing. It's
I
not 1
understand
or
it,
2.
but going
We're
out
not
here
telling the
and
public
putting out
gonna
there
get
that it's
worse.
gonna be 73 hurts our position. That's what I'm gonna stand by.
do you agree that that hurts our position? I mean, Mr. Russo will hear from the public himself at the town hall meeting, just like he did the other one. His attorney has been present at planning board meetings. They know what's going on, they know what's being said here, they know what we're asking them and why we're asking it.
I'm not sure I understand, Councilman. Because we've said 73, we think we can't go any lower than 73? Is that?
The
Okay.
supplier has come out and said 73, where I was under the impression that this was slightly open-ended. Yes, I didn't expect it to be cut in half. I understand that. But every little bit counts, okay? The same way when I was negotiating the redevelopment agreement and the financial part of it, I had Facebook pages saying we got the best deal possible. I mean, come on. I had 2 days later, I had $2 million more over the course of 30 years because of you were on the emails with me, okay, with the Acacia financials, going back and forth. I mean, how many more times are we going to compromise ourselves because we're trying to do something transparency? I think it's a little bit being naive out of all this. It's nothing against what you guys are trying to do, but you're hurting the position because there's certain negotiations that are done. This thing is not final. We don't have financials. There's a lot of question marks, and we shouldn't have done this black.
You can't have it both ways where you want to be completely transparent, which is what you've said. We don't do enough in front of everybody. We do too much behind doors.
It's
You
not
can't
either
have
or, it's
it in
not
both ways.
binary.
And I don't see how giving the public this number that was given at the meeting, which hopefully could get 1 or 2 bedrooms better.
It's not 1 or 2.
It was what we
It
spoke
was.
about.
Put words in the mouth.
I'm really unsure how this affects negotiations. I feel like you're kind of grasping at something to
grasping.
make this a negative.
It's just disappointing because I understand what you're trying to do. It's like, we were very naive. We're still negotiating. It's like if we go behind the executive session, you know?
I don't really appreciate the comment of being called naive, but Mr. Northbury, while you're standing there, I mean, do you think we hurt negotiations? In your professional opinion?
I don't think it impacts negotiations. That you stated, the flyer says what their position is, and I think actually it's the Russo deal here. There was other pieces where they said this is what they need. Okay, but you know, as you raised several times, you know, we need to take a look at it. If there is a way, if this deal is too rich, or there's a way to do it, then your answer is going to be no. We're just not going to do it. I mean, that puts us. We're in a position, but there's no mystery that we're in a position because of the affordable housing. That's the threat that the borough's under. But I don't know. I don't think we're cutting it in half. I agree with you, but I don't think this cements our feet into 73 units. I think it could get better. It could get different. And I think it's going to be, you push one lever up, another lever's going to go down. We might be able to get more of this, but we're going to have to take less of that, but that's going to be the nature of, and that's what the decision you're all going to make as to what's acceptable to you. But I don't see it as putting our feet in concrete. The 7,300.
I have a question. Aside from we ended up probably where you started off at 95 units and then 315, but that's okay. You worked all this time to end up at 79 units. And we have the COA amount for phase 2.
What's that?
COA.
Actually, if you go with, one of the advantages of going with the 73 is that it will help on the COA side. Because they require to build more units, they would require to build more affordable units, and I'll defer to Mr. Renaud as to the effect that has on COA, but it would be more COA units instead of less.
Yeah, because they cut it down to 10 across the street. So what is the amount of COA units required in phase 2?
It's going to be 15% of whatever the number is.
15.
Correct.
15 or 20.
Yeah, it could have been 20.
Well, no, it would be, if it were for sale units, it would be 20. It's generally 20% on for sales and 15% on rentals.
See, that's the problem, we never got full and total answers for any of this.
It's right in the affordable housing agreement. It outlines 15% for Russo too,
Yeah,
South
no,
Avenue
we
too.
didn't get 15% across the street.
The conversation started about the flyer, I think we've exhausted it. Let's
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Northgrave.
Okay, thank
for
you.
your input. We'll move on to payment of claims.
Be resolved, the following claims as approved being and the same are hereby ordered paid when properly signed and verified. And the payment of payrolls as listed is hereby confirmed and ratified.
Have a motion to adopt payment of claims.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, Ms. Ariella.
Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Aye.
Councilwoman Christie.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Councilman Morano.
Aye.
And Council President Disco.
Aye.
Okay, moving on. The regular meeting of the mayor and council will be held on Tuesday, December 12th, 2017, in council chambers at 7:15 p.m.
Excuse me,
Workshop.
Mayor, I have to interrupt you.
Yes.
We forgot to talk about that special meeting that you may need
The 18th?
for, if you are going to have the special meeting of the mayor and council. I have to publish that, but also, if you think you're going to introduce an ordinance or two on the 12th and adopt it on the 18th, there will not be sufficient time for me to notice properly.
At this point, I think if we end up going with a different redevelopment plan than the one that's been on the agenda the last two meetings, then we would have to introduce December 12th and potentially adopt December 26th, which gives a planning board meeting in between as well, for them to make comments on the new plan. Is that correct, Mr. Renaud?
Well, we'd have, if we introduced on the 12th, we could pass on the 26th, and if you have a planning board meeting in between, there, yes, they could make comments, assuming there's sufficient time for them to review, yes. When is the planning board meeting?
14th.
14th?
Thursday.
Okay, well, that would work.
Okay, so no December 18th meeting of the mayor and council, correct?
I don't think there's anything we could use the meeting for, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms.
Just wanted to get clarity, sorry.
That's okay. I'll just, there will be a public hearing in council chambers on ordinance 17-26, bond ordinance 17-27, on Tuesday, December 12th, 2017, at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter. We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and good night.